Welcome to the Real GI Doc Show. I'm your host, Dr. Fred Gandolfo, and I'm a board-certified gastroenterologist with a practice in Long Island, New York, which is where I'm sitting right now, recording this quick, super quick podcast episode, because it's not really my podcast. I'm actually here to announce that I had a guest podcast spot recently, which is timely because it's all about colorectal cancer. And since March is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month, I thought it would be great to highlight this guest spot on my own show and drive some traffic to the wonderful Sara Kavanaugh, who interviewed me maybe a month ago about colon cancer. So briefly, we talked all about colorectal cancer because it is the fourth most common diagnosed cancer in the United States and the second leading cause of cancer death. And that's not cool. So March is the month to talk about it. And embarrassingly, I have not really done a great job this March because I've talked so much about colon cancer on all my other episodes that I figured I don't want anyone to get really bored with the topic. So instead, what I'm going to do today is briefly review a couple of quick things, and then I'm going to play a little clip from the recent interview I had, and then I'm going to drive you over to Sara's podcast. It's called the Positive Gene Podcast. And it's interesting because she is a person who has Lynch syndrome. And if you didn't know, Lynch syndrome is a relatively common genetic cancer syndrome, which we know all about as gastro doctors because one of the big cancer that it causes is colon cancer or colorectal cancer, but also endometrial cancer, ovarian cancer even, and urinary tract cancers, small bowel cancer, gastric cancer, pancreas cancer, prostate cancer, even breast cancer is linked with Lynch syndrome. But the biggest few cancers are really colorectal cancer and endometrial cancer, which is really also uterine cancer, and then urinary tract cancers and gastric cancer. Those are the big four that we look for, but all the other ones are listed too. And the bottom line is if you are born with Lynch syndrome, which is a defect in these what are called mismatch repair genes that kind of predispose you to cancer if you have this problem, then you're really in for a lifelong surveillance process. And there's a couple of things that we do when you have Lynch syndrome. But I'm not going to bore you with those details because I did a long episode with Sara Kavanaugh, and I went into all those details. So if you're interested in that and learning about Lynch, it's a great place to listen. But also, if you just want to know about colorectal cancer in general, we actually spent the bulk of our time together talking about basic colorectal cancer stuff, how to prevent colorectal cancer with diet and lifestyle factors, why there is an increased risk of colon cancer in younger people, which is a bad statistic. So we cover all that stuff. We cover some theories there. We also talk about when to get a colonoscopy for the average person, and also like what kind of early risk factors should young people look for. So if you're a young person, you have some certain symptoms, you should really go and beg your doctor to do a colonoscopy, even if they kind of blow you off and don't take it seriously because you're only 32 years old. So I went through all those risk factors on this episode, and we also talked about a bunch of misconceptions about screening and how to get over the embarrassment of it and how to talk to patients about it and what patients should be looking for in their gastro doctors when they're thinking about screening or just colorectal cancer type stuff in general. And we also talked about what else? What else we talked about? We talked about quality colonoscopy, which you've heard about here before. We talked about preventing colon cancer with taking aspirin even. We talked about that a little bit. And that's it, a whole bunch of stuff. So if you want to hear a good episode, a good really general overview on colorectal cancer for Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month, or if you want to learn a little more about Lynch syndrome and other genetic syndromes that are linked to colon cancer, today's a good time to go tune in to that episode. Actually, yesterday, I want to say, or 2 days ago, was Lynch Syndrome Awareness Day. I forget, I don't know when this is going to air, so I can't say the exact date, but that was on March 22nd. So Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month, tune in to the Positive Gene Podcast, and I'll put links to the episode in the show notes below. But if you're just looking for it, just look for Positive Gene Podcast. You can also go to the Positive Gene Podcast.podbean, podbean.com, and you'll find the site with all of the episodes on it as well. So hopefully you'll enjoy this short clip of the episode that we had, and I will leave you with that and our wonderful outro. Thanks for listening.
So when you mentioned that finding blood is, at some point going to trigger somebody to reach out to you, a question that comes up often is, how do you know that it's not being caused by hemorrhoids? How can you describe to somebody, because we're gonna get really into the weeds here for a second, because I talk to a lot of people that have colonoscopies on a regular basis, and we just get really personal. And so I think this is a question that comes up, or people find that they suspected that it was hemorrhoids, and so they didn't do anything about it until it reached a certain point when it was, found out to be cancer.
Yeah, so it's an important question, and it's a question that I have to answer. I have to do the mental arithmetic basically like every day, because this is a very common complaint, especially amongst young people. A little rectal bleeding. I see a little blood on the toilet paper when I wipe, a little bit of bright red blood, or I see a little blood on the stool, like you go and you just see a little blood on the outside, but the stool itself is normal. Or I see a couple of drops of blood in the water, or a little bit of blood in the water on occasion, like it happened a couple of weeks ago. I made the appointment. It hasn't stopped. It hasn't happened again since then, but it's happened maybe 6 months ago. These are all hard things to tease out. And the truth is, there is no way to tell without looking. So, there are some reassuring symptoms. If it's on and off bleeding that happens once every few months in a person and mostly it's just a little bright red blood on the toilet paper, that's usually some anal rectal source of bleeding, either a hemorrhoid or a fissure. But I don't want to say burned, because we looked and we found the thing, but I've been kind of almost fooled before. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of The Real GI Doc Show. Please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast player to catch my next episode. If you really want to show your appreciation for the show, take a moment to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts. It only takes a few seconds and is the best way to get other people to discover the show. If you use social media, you can find me under the handle @RealGIDoc, so feel free to follow, leave a comment, or just say hi. If you have a question about something gastro-related that you'd like me to answer on an upcoming episode, go to realgidoc.com or use the link in the show notes to leave me an audio question.
That's it for this episode of The Real GI Doc Show. Make sure to join Dr. Gandolfo next time to explore another interesting topic in gastrointestinal health. And remember, the views and opinions presented in today's episode are for informational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing discussed in this episode should be considered or used as a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you're experiencing a health issue, please consult with a doctor or a medical provider in your area. Thanks again for listening to the show.